On the morning of March 25, 1944, the Bay of Biscay lay gray and unsettled beneath a clouded sky. Captain Lieutenant Werner Hankey, commander of U-976, stood tall in the conning tower of his submarine. Around him, his lookouts scanned the horizon with trained precision, their eyes cutting through the haze in search of danger. Hankey felt confident. Beneath his feet lay 60 cm of seawater above the pressure hull, a shield that every German commander believed could stop any Allied shell should they be forced to crash dive. The doctrine was simple. Disappear beneath the waves and you were safe. The sea was your armor. What Hankey and his men did not know was that just beyond the horizon, 2 Royal Air Force Mosquito FB Mark 18 aircraft were approaching from the northeast. These were not ordinary bombers. They carried something new, something terrifying. 57mm Molins guns. These weren't weapons meant for rockets or depth charges. They were designed to do the impossible, to fire armor-piercing shells straight through the water, maintaining their lethal velocity even when a submarine tried to hide beneath the surface. For years, German naval training had taught the same lesson. The ocean was a wall of protection. Water's density would sap the energy from any projectile within centime. A meter of seawater was considered stronger than steel plating. But this morning, near the French port of Strait-Nazaire, that belief would be shattered forever. Flight Officer Turner, piloting Mosquito HX-933, adjusted his altitude, aligning perfectly for an attack run. His navigator, calm and practiced, monitored their angle and speed. The British had tested this maneuver for months, perfecting every calculation. Now, all of that preparation would be unleashed against U-976, a submarine crew with no idea their doctrines were already obsolete. 20 minutes earlier, Hankey's hydrophone operator had reported multiple aircraft engines approaching from the Calo north. As they had done many times before, the crew prepared their defenses. Twin 20mm flak guns were manned, along with a brand new 37mm cannon installed only 2 weeks earlier. These weapons had saved U-boats before, forcing Allied planes to break off their attacks. But today, they would mean nothing. These Mosquitoes weren't carrying depth charges that could be dodged or rockets that scattered wildly. They carried a weapon system that Reich's Marshal Göring himself had once dismissed as British propaganda. The Molins gun was a marvel of engineering, a modified 6-pounder anti-tank gun with an automatic loading system. It could fire 55 rounds per minute at nearly 890 m divided by s. A cigarette-making company of all things had designed its autoloader. It was the kind of unorthodox invention that German intelligence reports had refused to believe, even after hearing it directly from captured Allied crews. Hankey had seen almost everything war could throw at him. Since 1940, he had survived 37 patrols and sunk 11 Allied merchant ships, earning the Knight's Cross with oak leaves. He knew the rhythm of submarine combat. He knew how to outwit depth charges, evade radar, and deploy decoys against American homing torpedoes. But nothing in his years of experience prepared him for an aircraft armed with a cannon that could strike beneath the waves. At 2,500 m altitude, Turner's Mosquito tilted into a 30-degree dive. The wooden aircraft cut through the air, its engines roaring as it hurtled toward U-976. The German lookouts finally spotted it. Their frantic shouts broke the morning calm. Mosquito bearing 045. The flak crews swung their guns skyward, firing desperately, but the Mosquito was too high, too steep, and too fast. Their shells splashed harmlessly into the sea. Turner held his aircraft steady. His twin Browning machine guns opened fire, tracers skipping across the water, guiding his aim. Then, with his sights aligned, he squeezed the trigger. At 409:37 12 seconds, the first 57mm shell tore free of the Molins gun, followed by 5 more in rapid succession. Each shell, 6L bound of hardened steel, screamed through the air before plunging into the sea right in front of U-976's bow. Inside the submarine, the diving alarm shrieked. Men scrambled through hatches, the clanging of metal and shouted orders echoing down the narrow corridors. Hankey ordered a crash dive, trusting in the same doctrine that had saved countless submarines before. The diesel engines cut off, electric motors hummed, and the bow planes angled downward. U-976 slipped beneath the surface, seeking refuge in the embrace of the sea. But this time, the sea would not protect them. The first shell slammed into the water 20 m ahead of the submarine, maintaining deadly stability as it cut through the liquid barrier. Its speed dropped from 890 m divided by s to 600, but it was still fast enough to punch through the hull as if it were paper. A thunderous crack shook the submarine as the shell burst through near the forward torpedo room. Seawater exploded inward. 2 men died instantly, shredded by steel fragments. Others were thrown against bulkheads as the ocean roared in. A second shell smashed through the control room, flooding it with seawater and hydraulic fluid. Charts dissolved into pulp as officers struggled to keep their footing. Hankey's voice cut through the chaos, ordering ballast tanks blown, but even as he shouted, water pulled at his feet. Their sanctuary was gone. Their most trusted defense, the crash dive, had failed. Above, Turner pulled out of his dive, his Mosquito climbing back into the clouds. His wingman, Flight Officer Hilliard, dove next. Though U-976 was already mortally wounded, Hilliard unleashed another salvo. 2 more shells tore into the submarine at just 15 mm depth. The hull buckled, compartments collapsed. By 0942 hours, less than 7 minutes after the attack began, U-976 was finished. 38 of her 52 crewmen were dead, trapped in the flooded compartments. 14 survivors clawed their way to the surface through the forward torpedo hatch, gasping for air amid a slick of oil and debris. Above them, the Mosquitoes circled, their radios calling in positions for rescue craft. For the Germans, this engagement was more than the loss of one submarine. It was the loss of an entire belief system. The Molins gun had proven that the ocean was no longer armor. Water was no longer a shield. From now on, the very act of diving, once the submarine's salvation, could mean destruction. The Bay of Biscay, already feared for Allied patrols, now became what U-boat crews called the Death Corridor. The Mosquito FB Mark 18, nicknamed the Tsetse after the African fly with its lethal bite, had changed submarine warfare forever, and as word of U-976's fate spread through the pens at Laurier Street, Nazaire, and Bordeaux, fear spread with it. Crews whispered about wooden hammers that could smash them even beneath the waves. Morale collapsed. The certainty that crash diving meant survival was gone. And with it, the U-boat's last great advantage slipped beneath the sea, just as surely as U-976 had that March morning.